2016 was certainly something. A lot of famous faces have died off this year. So many that 2 more have passed on since I started putting together the video. I really don't envy the people that have to put together those we have lost this year in memoriam montages. Those fuckers are going to be putting in some serious overtime this year. There were, shall we say, questionable decisions made in the political spectrum in 2016. Now obviously I don't want this to descend into some sort of political rant. People are entitled to their choices, no matter how potentially apocalyptic they are. So I'll limit my 2016 political commentary to the following.
What a load of bollocks!
On top of this, until I went to put together this list, I honestly thought this year had been a bit of a shit show for gaming as well. Not sure why, but for some reason I had it in my head that the year had been a bit limited when it came to quality games. Maybe it was just because I've trained myself in the past year or so to not get as hyped about games as much. And to be honest, it appears like I'm in the minority when it comes to that particular discipline. That being said, I really hope people take on board the concept of not getting overhyped, or they're potentially in for a rough few years, and lazy publishers will be in for a profitable few years. Then again, people tend to enjoy being ratty, moaning-faced wee bastards, and to those people, wire in, you enjoy your misery. But by all means, be optimistic. Just don't put all your eggs in one basket, because who knows when you're going to trip over an exceptionally small controller cable and faceplant into your eggs. I don't know how many farmers have an NES Classic, so I'm not sure how appropriate that analogy is, but yeah, you get my point. That reminds me, well done Nintendo on their continued policy of getting in their own way with product launches. I mean, who really wants to make major profit over the holidays on an easily manufactured system running 30-year-old software? Not Nintendo anyway. Then again, they do already have Pokemon Go money. Anyway, like I was saying, 2016 was actually a pleasant surprise for me in terms of gaming when I looked back at what I'd played. I originally thought I'd struggle to find 5 games I loved enough to put on a list, but in the end, I probably ended up with 10 plus games that could have easily made the list. As usual, there's a few rules to making the list, and as primarily an Xbox gamer, my list unsurprisingly leans towards games available on that particular system. But that's enough rambling. On to the list!
I can't hear you.
Get on the fucking ground now! Back away from the desk! I didn't do anything! I said get on the ground! Shut up! Don't you move or I'll blow your fucking head off!
So this game is the perfect example of why limiting your hype on a game can really pay off. I think we can all agree that the original Watch Dogs was killed by years of hype. A combination of misleading game demos and somewhat unrealistic expectations of the gaming community that this would be the greatest game of all time and it would fundamentally change everything led to a, well, lukewarm response. Looking back objectively, Watch Dogs wasn't awful. Looking at it without all the pre-release hype, it was a perfectly reasonable open world game. Bit bland character and story wise, but not the travesty it was portrayed to be. But what the disappointment of the first game seems to have done is led to the sequel somewhat flying under the radar a bit, and put simply, it doesn't deserve that. I'll admit, I didn't give it a second thought until a couple of days before release when I realised it was actually getting released. And with the lack of attention and hype, I was able to essentially go in blind, and the game was all the better for it. It expands on the strengths of the original while improving on the issues it had. In particular, the story and characters were probably the biggest surprise, in contrast to the first dull, moody, unrelatable characters. 2 revolves around a far more likeable cast of uber hackers who actually have, you know, personalities. Sure, at times it can descend into a bit of a millennial circle jerk, but the characters are strong enough to carry the reasonable story to a conclusion, whereas, quite frankly, I couldn't give 2 shits what happened to Aiden Pierce in Watch Dogs 1. I think his kid was dead, or his wife, or I don't know, maybe it was his fucking dog, I don't know. Does anyone really care? But what would a fun cast of characters be without a fun playground to use them in? Again, in contrast to the original's dark and dreary Chicago recreation, Ubisoft went in the polar opposite direction with a colourful, upbeat representation of San Francisco, which is probably one of my favourite open world environments of recent years. As with a lot of sandbox Ubisoft games, there's plenty of little things to do on top of the main missions, but more importantly there's a choice in how you can go about them. If you want to just go in all guns blazing, go for it. Or, if like me, you can use your hacking abilities to get yourself through missions, falling back on your stun gun when necessary and leaving firearms as a last resort. No matter how you play the game, the mechanics are all solid enough that you should enjoy yourself regardless. Also, I want to point out that this game has spawned what may be my favourite video game vehicle of all time. I don't know why, but there's something immensely satisfying about driving through traffic and looking down at the world from a hacked scissor lift. Such a small thing, but it's something that sticks in my head, and it's a vehicle I want in all open world games from now on. Maybe I'm easy pleased, but I seriously want this. Watch Dogs 2 will likely go down as the best forgotten game of 2016, which is quite sad praise in a way. It's a game that I feel everyone should give a chance, but I feel like no one will, which is, quite frankly, disappointing. Well, this game's been around on PC since I think February. Being the console peasant that I am, I decided to hold off on this game when I heard it was getting ported to consoles. And since it's made its way onto my Xbox, it's eaten up pretty much all of my free time. Who knew I'd be so into farming, like a real chukter? To those unaware, a chukter refers to the folk up in the highlands of my miserable homeland who I can only assume are all farmers because, well, what the fuck else is there for them to do up there? But I kid the Chukters, because if their life really is like that in Stardew Valley, I'm jealous as fuck. I'm not sure what it is about games that present you with an essentially alternative monotonous work-ridden life to your real-life monotonous work-ridden life. For some reason there's something incredibly addicting about them, and Stardew is no different. It's the first game in a while that has consumed this much of my time. I found myself getting home from work and sitting playing Stardew until I fall asleep. This is probably down to the day-to-day structure instilling that idea of, one more day. You just end up sinking hours into the game without realising it. You get into a routine in your attempts to make money and friends in the game's town. You start off your day watering or harvesting your plants, then maybe you take a walk into town, see if there's any odd jobs to be done. Maybe it's a townsperson's birthday and you've got a gift to give them. Got some free time after you've worked through your errands? Maybe relax with some fishing, or take a trip down the mines to kill some monsters. Perhaps you've got some items that contribute to the rebuilding of the community centre, or maybe you're a sellout piece of shit Joja supporter who wants to bulldoze the community centre, and if you are one of them, fuck you, you're a reprehensible scum and I hate you. On the surface, the game seems rather simplistic, really, but there's a surprising amount of depth and plenty to learn over your time tending the land. There's plenty of little secrets to be discovered on your journey to uber farmer status. More than I could ever have time to go over in a short summary like this. To be honest, this is going to be a game you either love or hate, and it should be pretty obvious by this point which side you fall on. But, if this seems like a game you might be interested in, trust me, it won't disappoint you. Just make sure you have the time to invest before starting. Neither the devs, nor myself, will be held responsible for you getting the sack because you were too busy taking in your fucking blueberry harvest. This game does not get the love it deserves as far as I can tell. I guess if nothing else, I love this game. I love everything about this game. From the incredible, and I really mean incredible, art and graphical direction. I mean, look at it! It's so pretty! To the lovable, adorable Yarny character, and yes, I absolutely was sad enough to make my own Yarny, because anyone who doesn't want a Yarny of their own is a heartless monster. Which is odd, because that's usually the category I fall into. But seriously, this game managed to make me give a shit about the fate of an anthropomorphic ball of yarn. And that's impressive considering I have the emotional range of the robots humanity will soon invent and will be enslaved by. Just you wait. It's coming. There's just something undeniably charming in everything the game does. The story seems to have Yarny reliving the memories of the old woman seen at the start of the game, taking us to important places from her past. The memories start out cheery enough, but soon descend into a darker mood as the world changes for the worse, with the industrialisation of a fondly remembered forest and personal tragedies really tugging at your heartstrings. Again, the game's ability to get you emotionally invested is impressive. To me at least. There are so many little details that I appreciate as well. Throughout the game, Yarny's reactions to what's going on around him are just fantastic. It's just little things like rubbing his sore head if something falls on him, shaking the snow from his yarn, or shivering in the cold and sheltering himself from the rain with his arm. It's amazing that the devs, through so many little details among other things, have managed to create a character that is a voiceless ball of wool with eyes that can convey emotion better than most AAA voiced characters. I know I mentioned earlier, but this game looks so lovely. The environments are just a joy to look at, and the snowy levels to me personally are some of the best looking levels I've ever played in a game. I am a bit of a sucker for snow in video games though. At its core, the game's a pretty simple puzzle platformer. Not going to reinvent things by any means, but it's fun nonetheless to swing from point to point as Yarny. I also want to give a mention to the music and sounds of this game. The people who put this together done an amazing job, and like most games probably won't get the level of praise they deserve, but let's face it, the sounds and music of a game can make or break it. And this game's no different. The music and sound design is top notch. Now, I'll shortly get back to my usual miserable bastard self, but before I do, please give this game a go. It really does deserve it, and you can tell the small dev team has put their heart and soul into this, and I personally wish them nothing but success, because they're clearly super fucking talented.
What's up with the sneaking around?
I'll preface this entry by stating that I'm a bit of a Hitman fanboy. Ever since stepping into that confession box at the start of Hitman 2, I've been a bit enamoured by the world of Hitman. Now that's not to say I was ever any good, in fact I was a bit shit at them. Stealth and tactical analysis were not really my strong suit back then. But Hitman was always unique. There really isn't anything like it as far as I'm concerned, and after the slight misstep that was Absolution, this year's Hitman takes you back to the great formula of, here's an area, this guy needs to die, do as you will. And trust me, there's plenty of ways for you to do as you will. And the areas at times are bloody massive for Hitman. Now, I also think it's worth mentioning the game's episodic release model, which, I'll be honest, I was dead against when I first heard about it. After becoming sick of Telltale Games' episodic release schedule, or more accurately, their lack of a firm schedule. But it somehow worked for Hitman. This might be due to the fact that with things like Telltale Games, you're talking maybe 2 hours and you're done. With one of these Hitman levels, there's so many ways to kill the targets, so many weapons and items to unlock, custom contracts, special timed elusive targets put out by the devs. There's just so much to keep you going until the next episode, level, mission, or whatever the hell it is they want to market it as. You can easily get 10 to 15 hours out of an episode. Usually by the time I'd done all I wanted to do, which for me was basically everything available, there was a new episode ready to release. The one time there was a significant gap between releases in the summer, they still put out more bonus content in the current locations that were available. And this wasn't half-assed content either. These were full-fledged Hitman missions. This game really has proved to me that the episodic structure can work when you set out and stick to a schedule and deliver what you promise. The devs have done a great job continually adding content which can keep players replaying levels over and over again without charging them a small fortune for it. There's definitely a lot of devs out there that would have just released a couple of episodes as a full £40 game and hidden the rest behind a 30 to 40 quid season pass. But around £45 for everything, you really are getting a bargain. For me, I know I'll personally never tire of causing at times absurd accidents in Hitman games, and this game, or first season, is a great platform for Hitman to be rebuilt on, and I really can't wait for Season 2. So, I kind of hate online first-person shooters these days. After years of yearly releases of games that are essentially carbon copies of each other, oversaturating the genre, I was just kind of done. And when Overwatch released, I was still done. I think it took me about 3 months to finally take the plunge and buy the game. All my friends were playing it, had been all over YouTube and gaming sites for months, and was receiving near universal praise. So I eventually gave in and bought it, fully expecting to regret my purchase. My only regret, however, was not buying it sooner. Despite my initial thought that this was just another addition to the already overcrowded FPS scene, there was just something different about Overwatch that drew me in immediately. Overwatch derives most of its strength from its cast of, at the time of recording, 23 heroes. Gone are the days of the faceless soldier on the battlefield. Overwatch's heroes are all so diverse and full of character, considering this is a multiplayer only environment we're talking about here. There's plenty of backstory already out there for the characters, from the hyper-intelligent gorilla raised in space to the plucky teleporting British lass. There's so much varying personality for you to invest yourself in. What if you just want to shoot things? Well, Overwatch certainly doesn't fail in that respect. The gameplay is nothing short of glorious. Each hero has unique weapons and abilities allowing you to play in practically entirely different ways from game to game. And honestly, each hero plays well. Obviously you'll have your favourites, but the ability to change the tide of a match in your team's favour by changing hero mid-game to counter an opposition hero is so satisfying. Something that, to me personally, Overwatch has benefited so much from is its lack of a traditional deathmatch mode, with the game's standard modes all being objective based. Such a big part of what made me drift away from FPSs was people's focus on solely personal accomplishment rather than the team. So often you have a game of domination in Call of Duty, for example, where someone would be so chuffed that they went 42-2, not even giving a second thought to the fact that they actually lost the match. Overwatch's focus on objective-based modes and the idea of keeping a balanced team of heroes, in my opinion, leads to games where everyone is more focused on the collective rather than the individual, doing what is needed so that the team can win. Whether that's switching from your favourite character to one that will better benefit the team, or switching to a healer hero, basically forgoing killing in favour of keeping your team alive. Sure, there's some twats out there that will refuse to change, but if you can get a group of friends together and work together as a team, there's little else this year that you'll have more fun doing. Everything I've said up to this point is just topped off so nicely by the art style of the game, which is just fantastic. The character and level design are amazing. Jumping between the colourful and vibrant locales based across the world is just a joy. Everything that's great about Overwatch comes together to create something truly special. Any game that could drag my jaded arse back into online FPS gaming deserves all the praise that this game has got. If, at the start of 2016, you had told me that my favourite game of the year would be an online shooter, I probably would have assumed you were some sort of escaped asylum patient and would have called the authorities at once. But, that being said, here we are. End of 2016 with Overwatch sitting deservedly at the top of this list. As far as honourable mentions go this year, I'm going to keep it brief because honestly, there's just too many games this year I'd want to mention. Doom. Basically you shoot stuff. Lots of stuff. It takes shooters back to basics and does a fucking great job of it. Play this game. I only started playing Final Fantasy after I started work on this video, but if given enough time, I have a funny feeling it may have sneaked onto the list. I've wanted a World War I campaign to play for as long as I can remember, and this game really delivered a stellar single player experience. Still don't give a shit about the multiplayer, funnily enough. Mirror's Edge. Great game that I had so much fun with, and I don't think it got the praise it was deserving of. I could really probably go on with the mentions this year, but I do need to end this eventually. So to sum up, pretty solid year all things considered. And, assuming we all survive through to this time in 2017, I guess I'll see you guys... You hear that? The fuck is that? Oh, god damn it, Donald.